welcome to the It Doesn't Hold Up podcast. We review and re-evaluate all things remember fondly from our childhood and years prior to see if they still hold up. And more often than not, they probably don't. I'm Stuart Shepherd, along with my co-host and good friend Michael Smith. Smith, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Stuart. And how are you?
I'm feeling old, Smith. I'm feeling really old.
Well, you are old.
Yes, yes. I turned a significant number last week, dear listeners and viewers. So
50. It was
I'm not
50.
50.
Look at the
I've been
state of him.
I've been using the term 3010, but someone said the other day 2020. I was like, oh, that's great. Why didn't I think of that before? I'm 2020. So yeah, when you turn 2020, you can start telling people you're 2020. There you go.
No, I'll start telling people I'm 35.
Yes, forever. You've been
But this,
35 since you were 12.
it's the bald thing. It really helps.
It really does. Yeah. Right then. So before we get on to this episode's nomination, just want to talk about last episode's feedback, which was The Running Man. Now, we got feedback before we'd even recorded. There are lots of people who are very animated about it, going, "Oh my
Is
God,
that
yeah, totally
is
holds
that
up."
feedback or is that pre-back? Why does that
Pre-back,
sound weird? Why does that sound weirdly sexual?
pre-back.
Hmm.
All right, pre-feedback. So,
Referendum.
I'm
Referendum.
going to start off with the pre-feedback, and then I'll go into the proper feedback. So it was, yes, it absolutely does hold up. Totally does still hold up. Still awesome. This film 100% holds up, and I think it's in the top five Arnie movies. And then this was the feedback afterwards. I'll give you a hint. It does hold up, so leave it alone, yeah? And the last bit was
Leave it alone.
the other one is
You leave the running man alone. It didn't do anything to you.
it didn't, to be fair. And the last one was you're like this. Great episode as always. You've got to cover the stuff. Mm. Problem is we can't cover the stuff because I've never seen the stuff, and the rules of our podcast is we both have had to seen it previously.
It's
So
it's it's good. It's fucking weird, but it's good.
yeah, I'm intrigued.
I'll give you a lend, then
Please do.
then we'll give it a week, and then we can watch it in the podcast.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Cool. Did you receive any other supplementary feedback about the Running Man?
I didn't, but it does beg the question. It's someone saying that it's in the top five Arnie films. What are your top five Arnie films?
Well, you'd think Terminator and Predator have got to be in there. So, and then
Yeah,
you've
I
got Running
reckon.
Man. And then what's the other two?
Well, we got Terminator and Terminator 2. That's
Oh,
two.
yeah, that's
That's
true.
two slots gone immediately.
And
You're gonna
Predator.
have Predator, locked on in there. Hmm.
Then Running
Yeah,
Man.
I
So that
probably
leaves you
would have
one
put
more.
Running Man and Total Recall.
Oh, Total Recall. Yeah, totally Total Recall. But they are
Right.
Commando. No, Total
You've got
Recall's above
Commando
Commando.
or what about Junior?
What about End of Days? That's a fucking great film.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Oh. Oh.
Playing the unlikely named Jericho Kane. It's like someone was just watching WWE Raw in 2000 and was like, yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, I'm Stone Cold Taker. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, all right, enough with the Running Man. But yeah, I had all sorts of fun discussing that last time. But yeah. So this episode's nomination came from Smith, and it is Mars Attacks from
Yeah.
1996. So, the title was quite self-explanatory. It's the tale of some Martians who invade Earth and start fucking shit up. And it was based on the old trading cards from the
Topps
1950s and
trading cards,
1960s.
yes. Topps
Yeah,
trading cards from the 1950s. And it goes to show you, with this and Barbie, you can make a film out of anything.
absolutely. Yeah. And 1996. So that's a year we haven't covered yet. So I was quite excited when you said that. I thought, oh God, he's going to choose 94 again, isn't he? But no, 1996, we've not covered that. So take it away, Smith. What was going on in 1996?
Well, so, I mean, 1996 was a big year. It was the year we first met.
That's true.
Yeah. So it was a big year for us. And it kind of, the reason, yeah, it's one of the reasons why I thought it'd be a good film to pick because I think we saw this at the cinema together, did we?
That's right.
I
We did.
think,
Yep.
believe so, yeah.
Mhm.
In 1996, what was going on in the world apart from the momentous meeting between you and I? The Spice Girls debuted. So it was the first, girl power became a thing for the first time ever, as I understand it. Up until then, girls had had no power. Now they've got loads, and I say, not before time. So
Direct your hate mail to one Michael Smith.
I'm saying it's a good thing. Anyway, in important news, after 27 years, Betty Rubble finally debuts as a Flintstones vitamin character.
Wow.
Important news. In London, the show Cats is performed for the 6,138th time, surpassing the previous record held on Broadway by a chorus line. Now, that shows that nobody had taste in 1996. They don't have taste now because Cats is shit.
Yeah, I don't want to see it.
Game of Thrones was first published in 1996, which came as a surprise to me because it didn't hit the popular zeitgeist till much later.
Yeah.
It's been around for decades. Fox News is launched in the US, becoming the cesspit of misinformation and nonsense that it continues to be to this day. In not significantly the worst news of his life, Prince Andrew and Fergie divorced. Can't say it
Yes.
was all uphill for him from there. Um, and the number one song of the year in the UK was the Fugees, "Killing Me Softly." Uh,
Great tune.
yeah, it's a good tune. Even I don't hate that one, and I hate most things from the 90s. Top films of the year. Independence Day was the top grossing international film of the year, continuing the space theme,
Mhm.
followed by Twister, Mission Impossible. Also in the top 10, you had The Rock and A Time to Kill. Notable notable entries up that list as well are the first Scream film released in 1996 and the best Star Trek film, Star Trek First Contact. Maybe the
Agreed.
second best one, actually.
Yeah, we went to see
Wrath of
that as
Khan.
well, didn't we?
Wrath of
That,
Khan. Yes, we did. The
yeah.
Odeon. Is it the Odeon in Swanley?
Woolwich. No, not a
Woolwich.
Sidcup.
No.
No, it was the
Sidcup.
old
Sidcup.
ABC
Yeah,
cinema
it
in
was the
Sidcup.
ABC and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
became an Odeon. Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Mars Attacks was number 39 film of the year, beating Dusk Till Dawn and Fargo, which both came out in the same year. Arguably both better.
Good year for films, isn't it?
It is a good year for films, actually. This was surprising. I was looking down the list of 1996 films. I was like, there was tons of stuff in like the top 20 where like, I could have just rattled off the entire top 20.
Yep.
And they're, with a few exceptions, banger after banger after banger.
Indeed.
And so that is what was happening more broadly in 1996.
Cool. Well, it's a weird one because this movie is from 1996 and it came out in America December 13th, 1996. It was tagline was Friday, as in frying something. But we didn't get it until February 1997. So I believe I definitely would have been 12. Maybe you would have been on borderline 11 or 12 in 1997 if it came out February time, depending on when it was.
Yeah, maybe we went for my birthday.
We probably did. But I remember about 12 of us going to watch this because when we were at school, you had this thing about gathering as many people as possible to go off to the cinemas. And this was before the day you could even pre-book tickets. So there would just be hordes of us just coming in, just trying to find a seat wherever possible. And we
Uh,
went of all places to Gravesend Cinema to go and watch it. I was like, oh, what shell?
the old Gravesend Cinema, bloody hell.
Does it even exist anymore? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Does Gravesend even exist anymore? I've not been there in years.
Unfortunately, it does. I train there every Sunday for wrestling. But
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Anyone
cool.
who lives in Gravesend who wants to direct their hate mail at me, please do. You live in a shithole.
Yeah, I also dissed it so you can direct your hate mail to me as well. First time ever. There you go. Cool. All right. So, yep, we saw it at cinema in February 1997. And
Mm,
then, do you know what? Randomly, I remember you got it on video in a
I
big double
did.
pack that had a T-shirt in it. Because then when you lent it to me, it was this massive box. I was like, Smith, why is this box massive? You're like, oh, there was a T-shirt in it. I was like, all right, got you.
A t-shirt which I have no photographic evidence of, nor do I believe I ever wore, because it'd probably still fit me now.
Probably. Yeah, you've been 35
Um,
since 12. Yeah.
I've been XL all my life in shirt size.
Cool.
Yeah, I got it on VHS and I watched it again and again and again. I
Yeah.
watched this film so many times when I was a kid. And I believe I have it on DVD somewhere in the ether as well, but I don't remember having watched this now for like a decade.
I've not watched it for at least 20 years. So I remember watching it at the cinema with you. Then I think you lent me your video of it. And then perhaps I watched it once on Sky. And it's just one of these things I've just forgotten about. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then I watched it on Sky Store recently because it was only £4 to own it rather than rent it. So, oh, I'm having that. So there you go. How did you watch it?
I rented it on Amazon.
Rented it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
but I already own a physical copy of it somewhere. I just don't have access to it. Um, and what I was surprised by when I was watching it, not to jump ahead, was how much of it, and I say I probably haven't watched this in about 10 years, but how much of it came back to me. Like to the point that I remembered this film scene for scene,
Yeah.
line for line. There was very little in it that I was like, I don't remember that. But maybe one or two tiny bits. But apart from that, it was like every single bit, even down to the questions that I'd always had when I watched it when I was younger. Even now, I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, see, I remember the bits I remember vividly, but there's about 40% of this movie. I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that person being in this film and stuff like that. So, yeah, but we'll
Mm.
come to it. So, yeah, shall we get into the plot? And this is another film that does actually have a plot.
It has sort of a plot.
Yeah, aliens attack.
It's got, yeah, bits and bobs.
Cool, cool. Right then. So we start with Warner Brothers. Don't think we've done a Warner Brothers movie yet. So yeah, normally it's
Hmm.
a TriStar or New Line Cinema or something else. We are 4 miles outside Lockjaw, Kentucky, and we get two
Uh,
neighbors talking to each
Now,
other about smelling beef. Go on.
I Googled Lockjaw, Kentucky.
Hmm.
It's a real place.
Oh yeah, why wouldn't it be?
Well, it is. So I looked at it. I was like, is that just a funny name? Nope. Real place, Lockjaw, Kentucky.
There you go. Shout out to anyone who lives in Lockjaw, Kentucky and listens to us. I doubt it.
No,
Anyway,
I'd be very surprised.
I'd love it for feedback. So I'm from Lockjaw, Kentucky.
We should
Anyway,
have t-shirts printed up big in Lockjaw.
yeah. Cool. So we get two neighbours are talking to each other about smelling beef barbecue, and then suddenly, quite controversially, we get a herd of cows on fire running towards them. I'm like, oh fuck, that's dark. And then we see a
So,
flying
and also
saucer
that
fly away.
but the family gather around and look quite unconcerned. They're all just stood there like, all right, yeah, there's bunch of cows on fire. Now, so this originally, apparently, I was reading up on this. The studio Warner Brothers wanted to take this whole bit out. They didn't
Yeah.
like this bit at all, and they wanted to take it out, but they couldn't come up with anything better. So they just like, fuck it, keep it.
Yeah, I suppose you
And
need
it
something devastating to start the film off with, don't you?
was
But go on.
apparently in one of the early drafts, they trampled the farmer,
Uh,
and his family looked on in horror while he was like trampled by burning cattle. There's a lot of stuff I've read about this where it's like in alternate drafts that may never have been filmed, slash definitely were never filmed.
yeah.
This might have happened, but we're not going to go into that because it's long.
No, fair enough. But yeah, it's a bit weird because later on we see they don't really set things on fire; they just fry them completely. So I don't know. But yeah, these cows are on
It
fire
seems
and
to
they're running along.
vary depending on what they want their weapons to do at any given
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. But yeah, straight off the cows are burning. We see a flying saucer flying away from outside the houses, and then we see as we're going through the credits, many, many, many flying saucers are approaching Earth from Mars, and this is when we get the most impressive list of actors. I'm like, oh my God, it's extensive. Everyone is famous. Everyone.
It's everyone is famous, and I think they've got quite lucky because a lot of them weren't famous then,
But they are now.
but subsequently were famous. Like Jack Black was not famous then.
Yeah,
He is now.
really famous. Yeah.
I mean, Natalie Portman was still kind of in the early days of her
Hmm.
career.
True.
Um, yeah, so I think they got quite lucky. But even for the time, it's like it's funny weird when I was looking at the poster art for this, and it's like the people they chose to have on the cover. It's like, okay, you've got Jack Nicholson. I understand that because he's
Yep.
Jack Nicholson and he's in it twice for some reason. Um, Glenn Close,
Hmm.
okay, bit weird, but all right. Annette Bening, okay. Danny DeVito,
No,
why is
he's
he
in
on
it.
the bloody poster? He's in it for 2 minutes.
Yeah, literally 2 minutes. But I don't know. I don't know when they looked up well, who Piers Brosnan as well. I was like, who is the most famous
Oh
people to
yeah,
slap
Pierce
on the
Brosnan
front
on
of
the
this
poster as well.
box? But I'm just
Yeah,
like Danny DeVito. Yeah, but it's more like an extended cameo. Danny DeVito has.
I think one of the slight issues this film has is that very not many characters have much in the
Yeah,
way of development, and
yeah.
all of them. But I'd have put Sarah Jessica Parker on the front
Yep.
before I'd have put Danny DeVito. She's got a much bigger part.
Except she disappears about halfway through, and so does Piers Brosnan. But anyway, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So we get our
Also, I
impressive
don't know
list.
about you, but the early bit of the credits when they first started with the like Mars and the saucer flying, it went on for a while and it was very quiet and very low key music, and it was like it's weird. Like the names were just coming up, and it was just like noise in the background, like it wasn't actual music. I was like, and then
You sure?
it starts and it gets into it,
Ah,
but it's like for
yeah,
the
yeah.
first like 30, 40 seconds, it's like, okay,
Hmm.
it's just going to be a really quiet credit sequence.
No, I didn't spot that because then eventually Danny Elfman's theme
Yeah.
kicks in and it's quite a cool thing track. I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like 1950s alien monster movie type music. I was like, yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Cool. Right, so then we cut to the White House and we see President James
Now,
Dale.
Washington D.C. By the way, look this up. Real place.
It is. It is a real
Yeah,
place.
real
Yeah.
place. So
The,
yeah,
the White House is a real building. So yeah.
yep, absolutely is.
Yep. So we get we get to the White House and we see President James Dale played by Jack Nicholson, and he's being shown evidence of approaching UFOs. And at this point, we're getting a discussion with the press secretary Jerry, played by Martin Short, Professor Donald Kessler, and he's a stuffy old professor with a pipe, played by Piers Brosnan, and then we get Generals Casey and Decker. They're all discussing about how they should deal with it. Some of them think it's great, and some of them think it's a terrible idea. And then what was it? Kessler believes they're peaceful as they're advanced beings. I was like, how do you know that? How the fuck do you know they're peaceful people? If they're mass en route to Earth, they're going to be wanting to destroy Earth.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah, I don't believe anybody flies hundreds of thousands or millions of years across the galaxy to say hello.
exactly. And you wouldn't send about 1,000 ships. There'd be like one ship perhaps en route. But yeah,
It's like when people sailed to America on the Mayflower. How did that work out for everyone?
awkward. Yeah. So Decker is distrusting, and then the president is going to give a press conference, which Jerry is going to sort out. So yeah. Then we meet First Lady Marsha, who's played by Glenn Close, and their child Taffy. It's like Taffy, what a strange name. Who's played by Natalie Portman. And we see at this point that Marsha is a terrible mother, and she's more worried about decorating the Roosevelt room than taking care of her daughter. I think she says something about, "Look, if you're just going to be a pest, I'm going to ignore you." Great Perry in there, Marsha.
The only way to deal with kids, Stu. The only
Yeah,
way to deal with kids.
exactly. I should deal with my son. Look, if you're going to be a pest, I'm just going to ignore you. Marsha has a photo with the interior designer. She just sort of pushes him away, which I thought was really funny. Then we cut to the Las Vegas
Uh,
casino. And we gone.
Las Vegas, by the way, real place.
It is
Looked it up. Yeah, real place. Looked it up. Yep.
that casino might not necessarily be a real casino, but it is a real place. That's true.
Hmm.
We meet Byron, who's a former boxing champion, and he's now dressed as a pharaoh, and he's getting photos with nuns, which I thought was quite funny.
Well, Jim Brown, who we last seen in The Running Man. Fireball.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, you did mention that,
I
but
mentioned it last week. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
Fireball. It looks
And
completely different. Hmm?
he does look completely different. He's completely bulked up in this film. He was quite skinny in the Running Man. I was going to say, and dead.
Yeah, no, he is dead. Yes, yes, he is dead. Quite a lot of people in this are still alive.
Yeah, yeah. Right, then we get Byron speaking to his wife Louise on the phone, and it's Pam Grier. I was like, shit, and could not remember Pam Grier being in this movie. I was like, oh my God, that was a pleasant surprise. And this was before she did Jackie Brown. Uh,
Would it have been, what was Jackie Brown, 97?
97, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So from what we understand is they're separated, but they're trying to make it work, and they're sort of co-raising two boys because she lives in
Yeah.
Washington and he's in Vegas.
One of
Uh,
whom became the musical star Ray J.
Ray J.
So, yeah, he's an American musical star.
Oh, is that You Can Call Me Ray and You Can Call
You
Me
can call
Jay?
me Jay. Who'd you call me, Ray J? Yeah. I don't know.
Uh,
But again, it's kind of that serendipity of somebody becoming quite a bit more famous than they were when they were in the film. Unless someone's going to tell me that Ray J was already a successful child star or singer and I'm talking shit, which I might be. Music's not my thing, Stu.
no, it's not. Right then. Then we get Byron's managers giving him shit for being on the phone. And at this point, within the casino, we meet Art and Barbara. And I was like, I said to my wife, when that Art bloke looks well like Jack Nicholson. And she's like, nah, it's not like that. Because again, I had forgotten or could not remember or whatever that Jack Nicholson plays two parts in this. I'm like, yeah, I think that's Jack Nicholson. She goes, no, it's not. It's not. The mouth is different. His nose is different or something like that. No, it's definitely him.
Yeah, it's Jack Nicholson
Yeah.
wearing prosthetics. And
Yeah.
I, for the life of me, can't work out why.
No, it's odd. I read that Michael Keaton was going to play him, and they would have played off the whole Batman Joker thing for the original Tim Burton film, but I didn't. Could be bullshit. Don't know.
It does have a bit of the Michael Keaton about it, the performances
Yeah,
as art.
yeah,
Um, in the some of it very Beetlejuice reminiscent.
yeah. And I'm like, what is Art Steele? Like, he's an architect or something because he's building the Galaxy Casino or something. And from what we understand, him and his wife Barbara, their relationship's on the rocks. And yeah, she's an alcoholic and a bit of a hippie, and she seems to be excited by the prospect of aliens coming towards Earth. Um, yeah. Then we cut to New York and we get an awkward shot of the Twin Towers. Like,
By the way, New York. So I looked this up. It's a real place.
it is, it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real place.
Cool. We cut to a TV studio. We meet Natalie, which is Sarah Jessica Parker, and she's a presenter of some really shitty daytime fashion show, and she's got that horrible dog Poppy. And the producers are told that the president is going to cut in and give his speech, the one that Jerry set up earlier on.
Producer is also, I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but he plays Stanford in Sex and the City. So there
Oh,
is a bit of a Sex and the City double bill there for anyone
there you,
who's a fan of that show.
there you go. Then we meet Jason, who is Natalie's boyfriend. He's played by Michael J. Fox, criminally underused in this movie, but
Oh, he's barely in it.
from what I understand, his Parkinson's was really bad by this point, so he was lucky even to be in this much of the film. Um,
I think also, it's doing that thing that the disaster movies of the 1970s did, right? It's basically it's mixing 1950s sci-fi cinema with 1970s Owen Allen disaster movies. So you're
yeah,
putting that kind of day glow hitch Americana and throwing quite a lot of big names that you're only going to use for like a minute here and a minute there. It's not it's more pronounced, I think, because this is shorter than a lot of those.
Yeah,
But you get someone like Michael J. Fox, who would, with Spin City, have been a fairly big and
yeah,
household name still at the time, and you put him in it for 2 or 3 scenes.
yeah, yeah. It's true. Yeah, because like Towering Inferno's got loads of people in it as well, isn't it? For the
Yeah,
1970s.
so I was looking this up because I was thinking like, what's this like? And I was thinking like, the Owen Allen disaster films, so like the Towering Inferno, like Earthquake, Poseidon Adventure, and Earthquake and Poseidon Adventure are a little bit more like this because the running time's quite similar.
Mm,
But like Tower Inferno has got tons of people in it, but it is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, which is
Jesus.
45 minutes too fucking long.
Yeah, way too long. Probably why I've never watched it. Um,
I wouldn't bother.
no, no. And then Jason gets a call from Natalie, his girlfriend, says that the president's going to cut in on her show, and then Jason starts getting all jealous about it. But I was like, no, the president's cutting in on all shows. He's not just cutting in on her show. And then that's when the president starts giving a speech. And I got some serious Joker in Batman 1989. Do you remember that bit when Joker just
Yeah,
invades on
yeah,
TV and
yeah.
he just does the wipe like that and he just starts talking? Because even the way he's positioned in the chair and he's looking at the camera, it's like, yeah, that's like Joker when he has the skin makeup on and he doesn't look like the
Yeah.
Joker, which I thought was really cool. Um, yeah, and then Taffy's watching her dad on TV, really unimpressed. And essentially, the president's saying, "Look, don't fear. This is a good thing that the aliens are coming here. You know, this is a chance to have unity across the galaxy." I'm like, "Are you fucking mad? Like, Martians are coming to Earth, and you think this is a good thing?" All right, fair enough. Um, then we cut this bit every time we cut this is so weird. We cut to Donut World in Perkinsville, Kansas.
Now, Perkinsville, Kansas, not a real place.
Oh, that's a shame. Kansas is a real
Yeah.
place, though.
Well, yes, obviously Kansas is a real place. But I don't know why you'd have Lockjaw, Kentucky, real place, and you couldn't have just called it a real place in Kansas. Because not
Yeah,
even like Perkinsville's a particular joke, unless I'm missing something.
don't know.
And
Well
I
done.
looked it up, and I'm not.
You know. We meet Richie, and he's watching footage on the TV where he works. And at this point, it's cutting between everywhere because everyone's watching the footage of the president talking on the TV. And this this is where back in the casino we get one of like the two scenes Danny DeVito is in, and he's like getting really pissed off that no one cares that he's playing craps and everyone's watching the footage. Like, right, we're not going to see him again for another 90 minutes.
Yeah,
Criminally underused.
it's
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
But I think it's that thing of like, and again, it's that big cast, small parts. Like
yeah,
everyone's got a little bit something, and actually, some of the bigger people, like a Jim Brown, who's got more
mm,
of a part, isn't necessarily a big or a household name. He was an American footballer who became an actor, so
yeah.
people will know who he is, but he's not an international household name. This is why you're not going to put him on the poster. You're not going to put starring Jim Brown.
Yeah. What they should have done in the credits, they should have had about five household names come up, and then the rest of the
Yeah.
smaller people like your Jim Brown. And then they should have just had people like Danny DeVito show up. So you go, oh my God, a cameo. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because when you put people that high up in the credits, you expect them to be in it a hell of a lot more.
It's funny with cameos in this thing. Like when I was doing my research for it, one of them is a bit later, like Easter Island. They're like, "Oh, it's a cameo from Cliff Curtis." It's like it's not a cameo from Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis wasn't famous in 1996. This was Cliff Curtis doing a jobbing actor role as
Yeah,
part of a crowd.
yeah,
This is not Cliff Curtis like kind of swanned in and went, "I'm only here for a day. I'm going to be an Easter Islander."
yeah. Absolutely not. Um, then what? We get Barbara being a hippie in a swimming pool. She's all happy about the Martians. And then this is where we cut to the Galaxy Hotel with Art overseeing it. And then I'm just like, I really don't understand why they cast Jack Nicholson twice in this. It's just really
So one
distracting
of
to
the
see him
things
twice in this.
I read was that apparently he made a joke at some point that he could play all the, he'd love to play all of the parts because they were great.
Right.
And then they kind of went, "All right, well, why don't you play two? Wouldn't that be fun?" I even at the time when it first came out, I found that distracting
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any sense.
No,
It's
it
like,
doesn't.
why is he playing two? It's like fucking Eddie Murphy. Like he's decided he's just going to play more than one role because, well, why not?
Well, that's what Eddie Murphy does, isn't it? Especially in like Coming to America, he plays about 10 people in that movie. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then we cut to New York City and newspapers. Yeah,
Everybody loves a
Martians.
fucking. He's
And then Jason and Natalie are having breakfast together, and he's getting really annoyed by that shit dog Poppy. I was like, well, yeah, obviously. And then Natalie
their
gets huh?
their flat looks like neither of them live in it. No one lives in it. It's just like so sparse. It's just a table and like a brown sofa in the background, and that's it. There's nothing else in that flat. It looks fucking horrible.
But do you know what? I'm assuming they're a couple. I mean, they might not be. They might just be good friends who live together or something, or just co-workers. And
No.
if nah, they're a couple, but just a couple that are very happy together. Yeah, and apparently Natalie is going to do an interview with Professor Kessler, which is Pierce Brosnan's character, and then Jason starts getting all jealous about that as well. Um, we get to Perkinsville, Kansas, and Richie's come home to his trailer park, and we're introduced to his brother, Billy Glenn, which is Jack Black. And again,
Yeah.
completely blocked that. I don't remember Jack Black being in this film. Do not
That's
remember
how I
that
do.
at
I
all.
quite clearly remember Jack Black being in the film because I think he wasn't particularly famous when he was in it, but then I think shortly after that he became quite famous. So
Yeah, because he done all the cable guy and stuff like that after that, didn't he? And he's assembling a rifle blindfolded, and his father's timing him. I'm like, where have I seen his dad before? Like when I looked up
GoldenEye,
his, huh?
GoldenEye.
Oh, okay. Oh, then
It's
there's
Joe.
a
It's
tie to
Joe
Pierce
Don
Brosnan.
Baker. Joe Don Baker. He's in GoldenEye. I believe he's in Cape Fear as well.
Okay, got you.
He's in loads. Joe Don Baker's in loads of stuff.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
one of
he's
those
one of those
character
guys.
actor people. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there is a GoldenEye connection here as well with him and Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. Now this bit, me and my wife were dying with laughter. It was so goddamn funny. So we're back in Washington, and Louise, Pam Grier, she's a bus driver. She sees her two sons are playing arcade in some shitty garage, and she just announces to them, "Right, that's it. We're making an unscheduled
Yeah.
stop."
I've written here that's not an arcade. It's a nonce hole.
It's like that thing in Suburban Commandos. Like, what the hell is this? And they're obsessed with playing this really shitty Martian game where like these aliens are like biting at a man until he turns into a skeleton or whatever with guns. I'm like, wonder if this will come back later. And then she stops the bus and goes absolutely ballistic at them. Then she forces them on the bus, and all the bus passengers just start clapping. So fucking funny. One thing I took away from that is I would not fuck with Pam Grier.
No.
Oh, it was funny. And this bit, I don't know about you, this left a really horrible taste in my mouth. The limo pulls over to some sex workers, and Jerry, Martin Schultz there, and he winds down the window and he starts talking. He goes, "Oh, my job's like really demanding. It's really stressful." I'm like, oh. Isn't this a kids' film? But it kind of is, and it isn't. It's bizarre.
It
It's
is
not.
one of those things like that the films of the 90s have, right? Where they've got this tonal inconsistency. And you kind of look and you go, who is this for?
Mm.
Because it's based on trading cards from the 1950s. So you're telling me it's probably for people in their 50s, but also it's a 12 or a
It
PG.
was a 12. Yeah.
As a 12, it's sort of violent, but it's cartoony violent,
Yeah.
but it's quite childish in its way. Like, who is this for? And then there's a bit
Yeah.
with sex workers. And so you've got, but I guess as well, I think at the time, films aimed at younger audiences did more of this type of thing than
Yeah.
films aimed at younger audiences now ever do.
No, no. Films now that are 12, they're still relatively tame. Like you go back and
Yeah.
watch some stuff years ago. Oh God, that pushed the
Well, you look
envelope.
at the Goonies and like the first 5 minutes, like Corey Feldman swearing, and the subtitles are him talking about sex dungeons.
Yeah,
It's
and heroin and stuff
cocaine.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, okay, it's kids film, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, what happens next? Yeah, then we get back to Vegas, and Byron's asking his boss for a pay rise, who essentially tells him to go fuck himself. So, okay, nice. And we get Martians are still en route. I'm like, pretty sure they would have got it by now. They're quite an advanced race, but they just seem to be very, very slowly just coming along. And then we get to Natalie's interviewing Professor Kessler very badly. I'm like, oh God,
Oh,
just
it's right at the beginning, just before they cut in, and they've got this British producer who's got the worst British accent. Oh, right, now cut the camera too.
oh yeah, why?
It really was like, what the hell was that? It's a bit later. He's like, what's wrong with the picture?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's coming up. And yeah, we get Natalie's interviewing Kessler really badly. It's all awkward. They're flirting, and Jason's watching it and getting really jealous. Going, he's flirting with her. He's made a pass at her and stuff like that. Um, we see the president and the first lady are watching on with a good boy. I was like, oh, the good boy. Hope nothing happens to the good boy. Spoiler, it does. And then the transmission, as you said, starts getting interrupted, and that he's, oh, what's going on
What's wrong with the
here?
picture? What? Oh, blimey.
And it's the Martian leader stroke ambassador, and he's a real ugly fucker. And that's when we get the nag, 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 nag. I was like, yeah, I forgot how annoying that was. And then,
So apparently like the
yeah,
was all just like put in the script as a placeholder
yeah,
because they didn't know what they were going to have them sound like, and they don't know to do that.
it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works.
For some reason, the ambassador, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing a circle sign. He does that, and Richie goes, "Oh, he just made the universal sign of the donut." What? Fucking idiot.
I must say, in the way that they're kind of, and I've noticed all the way through to this point that the way they're pastiching 1950s kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
The way that everything is designed. So it's set in the 90s, but everything's sort of got a 50s feel to
Yes.
it. Like a lot
Yeah.
of it feels quite dated, and it's all perfectly judged. Everything down from the color schemes to sort of like the retro furnishings. And the bit where Pierce Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker kind of come together and stand up to look at the screen is fucking perfect.
Yeah.
That kind of dramatic, like dun dun dun,
Yeah. And
like
he's
the
still
way
got the
it's
pipe in
shot.
his mouth when he does it.
Yeah, the
It's
way it's
like-
shot, the way they stand up, the way they hug each other. It's like, mwah,
Yeah. There is moments of
you
genius in
know
this
what you're
film.
doing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's visually like what it's going for is as a pastiche, and visually it's very inventive
Yeah.
in what it does.
Definitely.
It's not all entirely successful, but it's very inventive and it's very fun.
Definitely. Oh, then what? Then we cut to the White House and Kessler's giving his analysis of the Martians. I'm like, hang on a minute, how did you
Yeah,
obtain that?
but that's like again, it's like it's the thing you can't really have a crack at it for these logical inconsistencies because they're taking the piss out of films that would have done
Yeah,
stuff like this.
okay.
Like the fact that he's wearing a lab coat for some
Yeah,
reason,
yeah,
and he's talking like, yeah, he's breaking down their physiology. There's absolutely no way to do it. There's also a bit where he says something about them potentially having psychic capabilities, and someone goes, "You mean they can read our thoughts?" It's
yeah.
like,
Yes.
yeah, it's like perfect.
And then just to top that off, we then cut to Dr. Ziegler, the German. It's got like a googly 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 machine. And they've managed to transmit what the aliens said, translate what the aliens said on that miserable that fucking machine that's got no business in the 1990s.
It's it's weird as well because the casting, I can't remember the guy's name exactly, but the guy playing Dr. Ziegler is like quite a well-renowned dramatic Polish film director.
Oh, I thought he was putting that accent on because it was like a very
No, 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 no,
exaggerated
no, no, no,
German
no, no.
accent or something. Okay.
And did you know who the voice of the translator was?
No.
Roger L. Jackson. Ghostface himself is the
Wow.
voice of the translator. So even the small little bits has someone quite well known in
My
it.
God, that's unbelievable. Might be the most famous cast-wise film we've ever covered. Yeah, and when they translate what it said, it's basically mumbo jumbo. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This bit was funny. Then we get Taffy, Natalie Portman. She's wandering around the White House, but Mitch of the Secret Service doesn't let her through a door as there's a tour going on, and that comes back later, and it's very fucking funny when Mitch
Yeah,
says it again.
very. I remember the
Cut.
guy's name who plays Mitch, but he's in Baby's Day Out.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was on
Well, he's
telly
in
the
a
other day, so I recorded it. Oh,
yeah, that's quite
oh,
fun.
oh.
Uh, uh,
Then we cut to church and we get Barbara, Annette Bening. She's on stage talking about how she's a recovering alcoholic and how she's drawn to the impending arrival of the Martians. They all just start clapping. I noticed there's a few people at that church who are smoking. It's like, smoking? Because earlier on I could forgive Pierce Brosnan smoking his pipe on set, maybe, but why are people smoking in church? A little bit
I
disrespectful.
suppose back in the day you could smoke very well. This scene in particular was a bit like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, Annette Bening's character's weird because she's kind of one of the main characters,
She
but
doesn't do
not at the
anything.
same time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so bizarre. When you've got this ensemble cast, it's like, well, who's the main character? Probably Jack Nicholson when you really think about it. But like, who else
he's
is the
got the
main
most.
character?
I mean, him. I would say like Jim Brown. He's got the
Yeah,
biggest arc of anybody really. Because you think a lot of them die. I mean, Richie might
yeah, maybe
be.
Richie. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, let's carry on. Uh, Speaking of Richie, we get him saying goodbye to Billy Glenn at the bus stop, and his girlfriend is Christina Applegate. I'm like,
Christina Applegate.
seriously?
Two scenes. Two scenes. She's in this scene and she's in one scene for like 30 seconds later.
Which is quite funny, that scene. But yeah, she's like kind of just sort of crying, like, "Oh, I miss you." That's literally her line. I'm like, but Christina Applegate had done quite a few films with, so wasn't she in Married with Children as well?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just very, very bizarre casting. And yeah, he's going back to the army in the event of a Martian attack, and we've got the grandma there as well. She's clearly senile, and she's getting confused who each family member is. And then Billy Glenn
Hello,
calls Richie.
Thomas.
Yeah, I'm not Thomas, I'm Richie. Yes, yes, Thomas was always my favorite.
So she was in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, isn't she the receptionist, the one with the hole in her
The
neck?
one with the whole mouth. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
was
yeah.
her last film. She died not too long after this.
For some
Um,
reason, I got it into my head. She was the woman from Running Man, and I chose Ben Richards. But it's not. I looked up, I was like, oh, it's not.
no,
Damn it! I thought it was, but no.
Sylvia Sidney, I think her name is.
That's
She
it.
was like
Yeah,
an actress from like the 30s. So she's been in Hollywood for like her whole life.
yeah. And then as Billy Glenn gets on the bus, he says to Richie a really, really offensive name. I was like, oh no, that doesn't hold up.
Oh,
Like
I missed that.
you did, he calls him the R word. He went, "See you later, R word." I'm like, oh,
Oh,
just.
well, yes, I did. I did hear that. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Richie's a bit strange, but like, yeah, don't call him that. That's not cool. Then what? Then we get a funny scene. Richie's driving Grandma back to her old folks' home. He said, "Well, you must be really excited about, the Martians coming, Grandma. I mean, the things you must have seen, like the train being invented." I'm not that old. Oh, funny shit. So we're back in Washington, and Jerry's leading a press conference about the Martians, and Jason, Michael J. Fox, is amongst the reporters there, and he's asking about can they get interviews with the Martians. And the president arrives for a question. This really weird looking bloke asks a question like, do the Martians have two sexes like we do? And it just abruptly cuts to the next scene. I don't know why that made me laugh as much as it did. It makes me
See,
wonder if,
that's the one bit that stood out as a bit antiquated because it's clearly meant to be an androgynous person. So is it a man? Is it a
right.
woman? And that's the
Okay.
joke. Do they have two sexes like we do? But which sex are they? Which like feels like a very 90s joke. But it also feels like a very labored joke. Like it really sticks out.
I didn't see it like that. I just saw it as like this guy was a bit of a perv, just asking a weird question like that.
No,
But now you've mentioned that, I'm like, oh, okay. And it
I
looks
wonder if
like
it was even played by a woman.
could have been. And I wonder if there was bits after that. There was more to it, and they just cut it down just to finish it off at that scene. I don't know.
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt out of place. I don't know. It
Uh,
felt like an odd. Yeah. Anyway,
oh well, I apologise if I've offended anyone. I didn't read it like that at all. Just thought this person was a perv. Anyway, cool. We get to the old folks' home, and Richie's taking Grandma to her room, and she starts talking to her taxidermy cat Muffy. I'm like, oh God. I've always found taxidermy really horrible, like, ugh.
yeah, it's
Why would you,
weird. It's
why,
fucking weird.
when your pet's dead, it's dead. Don't hold on to its dead carcass. It's just
Don't
bizarre.
stuff it. You wouldn't do it to a loved one.
Yeah, Norman Bates. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to insist when I die that that does happen, and I just sit in the corner just glaring at everyone.
You're gonna be like that bloke in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre who's up in the loft.
Yeah,
Grandpa.
that's Grandpa. But I'm murder text.
And then Richie puts on that awful Slim Whitman music on the record player, and then leaves. Wonder if this will come back. We get Byron's jogging along in Vegas, and then Art pulls up in a car, and he offers him a proposition to punch someone who owes Art some money, and then Byron politely declines and says he's a better man now, and stuff like that got him in trouble in the past. That's why his marriage broke up, and then he said, "I even gave up pork," and then Art goes, "You gave up pork." Scene just ends. There's just so many fucking good jokes in this film that are just so left field. Oh dear. The Martians are still en route. And this time, they're sending coordinates to Gerald Decker's table, the machine. And then back in Washington, Kessler explains to the president that the Martians are landing in the Nevada desert in a place called Pahrump. Now, is that a real place?
I didn't look it up.
Smith.
I
Yeah.
know. I was disappointed by Perkinsville.
Oh, there you go. Well, they're going to a place called Pahrump, which is in the Nevada desert, and that's where there will be a greeting between the Martians and humans. And then Decker wants his army there for insurance, but Kessler disagrees. Like, no, no, they're a peaceful nation, and they'll think that if you turn up there with tanks and whatever, they're going to expect warfare. Which fair point, I guess, but you got to be prepared.
Hmm.
And then General Casey, who seems to be the more diplomatic of them, said he will oversee this in a peaceful manner. You get Decker outside getting really angry about all this, and then just Taffy comes out and goes, "Do you mind people are trying to sleep?" Funny. I've always wondered that in like the White House or 10 Downing Street or something like that. What part of that building is yours and what part is not? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you locked away
Yeah,
where you're safe? Or
yeah,
like, I don't know.
yeah. There is an administrative building that's just across the way where I think a lot of the actual business gets done.
Hmm.
Um, it's like behind it, but I don't know. I've never been to Washington DC.
No, I'd like to go. Be cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
All right. Then we see the army troops are heading towards the meeting point of the desert. There's like loads and loads of tanks going along and helicopters and all that shit. And then Casey's on a massive phone to his wife. I wasn't sure if it's supposed to be a massive phone, like one of those phones that like tanks come with or whatever, like some
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
like a field.
radio.
It's a field phone. It's a
Right.
field phone used in the army.
Well, this was the 90s, Smith. Phones were horrendous back in the 90s. So. And he's on
Couldn't
his
play
what?
Snake on that.
God, Snake. And then Snake 2 when the 3310 came out. And then Casey's talking to his wife and he's getting really excited about meeting the Martians. And then we see that There's just shitloads of cars of just regular people coming to see the Martians, and they're just directing traffic like, yeah, come in, come in. It's like, I really don't think that would be
Yeah,
happening.
I really don't think that would. I think you wouldn't get anywhere fucking near them.
No, maybe a completely secret meeting. They wouldn't be broadcasting this is what's happening. And then we see amongst some of those cars that are traveling there is Barbara, and she's dressed like a real hippie, like, I don't know, some sort of holy person. Billy Glenn is amongst the troops at the gathering, and then Casey gives orders, and Ziegler's working on that machine as well. And then we see that there's all sorts of people there, including Natalie and her dog Poppy. Jason's there reporting on his news channels, and but for some reason, the president, the first lady, and Kessler, they're watching from the White House. I'm like, why wouldn't they be there? But I don't know. Maybe just
Well,
sussing out what's going on.
Kessler would probably be there, but I'd imagine you'd keep the president away from something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, fair enough. So everyone all around the world is watching, including Richie again at work at the donut place. And this is when we get the Martians flying saucer landed, like descends in and lands in front of the red carpet. And this is when the CGI starts to look a bit shit because when like the tongue thing comes down and rolls out, it looks really, really rubbish. I mean,
Yeah,
some of the
well,
CGI is
I
horrendous.
mean, it looks good for 1996.
Well, most things did. Yeah. And Natalie's reporting really bad on the cover. Like, it looks like a giant hubcap. Fucking idiot. And the doors open, the Martians exit, and then the main leader or the ambassador, he's wearing a red cape, and then we get troops in green suits. And yeah, they look quite true to their trump cards, don't they? They're sort of like
Yeah,
weird skeletal faces with like massive brains and shit, but they've got like domes so they can breathe in them,
I
which
think the
makes sense.
recreation of the Topps trading cards is really well done, both from a design of the Martians, but also some of the images specifically in the film.
Yeah,
There's a few later which are taken directly
yeah,
from the cards, which look really like a really well done, a really nice, really goofy. Like they really capture the spirit of that 50s Americana.
yeah.
Um, and I was saying I thought the CG in this held up remarkably well.
Well, we'll come to some scenes later. And I'm like, yeah, that looks rubbish, but yeah, we'll get to it. Yep. And then we see the good boy starts barking at the TV. He's all distrustful of what he's seeing. And then General Casey goes to shake hands with the leader, but the leader refuses. And then he makes the international sign of the donut, and then the leader does the same thing. And then Ziegler translate the Martian after going ack 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 ack, saying greetings, I am the Martian's ambassador. And then Casey speaks back, and they translate that. And they say, "Oh look, we come in peace," and everyone's happy about it. And then we see
Then a
some
bloody
absolute
hippie goes and ruins it for everyone.
he's a real hippie. And he just releases a fucking dove. I was like, why did you do that? And that startles it, and he shoots it with a ray gun, and then just immediately shoots Casey. I was like, what the hell did Casey do? And that's Casey dead. And then there seems to be an inconsistency in this. Sometimes they shoot them and they go red, and sometimes they go green as they're like dissolving into like skeletons.
Well, I think some of the guns have red rays and some have green rays, so I'm assuming it's
Ah,
just a
okay.
color choice.
Like a lightsaber or something.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and at this point, the Martians just start zapping everyone, and then of course the army starts retaliating with gun and tank fire. It's like absolute warfare going on in this desert. Um, Natalie's platform's knocked over where she's standing, and then Jason runs to her and starts crawling along the ground. And at this point, Billy Glenn grabs a gun and he tries to fire at the Martians, and the magazine falls. It's like, "Die, you alien shithead!" And then he surrenders with the US flag, and they just zap him and kill him. I was like, "Oh shit, that's Jack Black dead." So the
yep.
first main famous person now to be
Ah, Paul
killed.
Winfield was pretty famous.
Is that Casey?
Yeah, he was in
Yeah.
stuff. He was in Star
Well,
Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan, actually.
there you go. That's the second time you've mentioned that today.
Yes, it is. Would it be the last?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We see that Jason's reaching out to Natalie to get zapped, and then we see that his hand's fallen off and she's holding onto his hand, and he's just like dead. Oh, shit, Michael J. Fox just died.
The original MJF dead.
Yeah. Everyone in quick succession dies in this scene. I'm like, oh shit, like they've killed off quite a few people already. Natalie faints and then she's kidnapped by the aliens with her dog, and also they take Jason's hand with him as well. It's like, why did they take Jason's hand? They go into the flying saucer and fly away, and the president's horrified. And then Decker's like, "Look, we got to retaliate. We need to fire back." And even the first lady says that. And then Kessler believes that no, this was a cultural misunderstanding. A cultural misunderstanding. No, it wasn't. It's a full-scale fucking invasion. Oh dear. And then Jerry thinks they should set up a town hall meeting to discuss. I'm like, what is there to discuss? Oh Christ. Kessler's on his computer with the president. They send a message out to the ambassador to say, "Look, we want to have another meeting, and yeah, let's. This was a cultural misunderstanding. Let's meet again and sort this out." Then we cut to the spaceship, And the Martians were all sitting around in their pants, which I don't remember at all. That was hilarious.
I thought those tiny little pants were really disturbing. Like
Yeah.
just it's something about it. It's like, oh, it's weird. The tiny little purple pants.
Why? Why are they just sitting around in their pants? And we see there's all sorts of experiments going on. They're experimenting on the dead dove. They're experimenting on Michael J. Fox's hand. And then I think it's either the ambassador or their second in command, whatever. He's reading Playboy for some reason. I'm not sure who that was a throwback to. Is it like Farrah Fawcett or someone that he's looking
I
at?
don't absolutely no idea.
No. And then he's looking at Playboy, and then he gets this really dirty, disgusting look towards Natalie, who's in a cage or like a cylinder, and she's been like
Yeah.
stripped out of her underwear. I'm like, oh. And I remember even when we watched it as kids, like that's a bit unsettling. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, really rapey look.
You couldn't imagine what he's about to do.
Ugh, horrible. Yeah, what we see happens is really quite disturbing. We get Art is recording a dictaphone memo about his hotel. Barbara's really annoyed about all this and terrified about the Martians. And then Art thinks that his hotel can be used for Martians to stay there. As if. And then she's drawn back to drink. And then Kessler's doing an autopsy on a dead Martian. Yes, yes, you can see that. Yeah, the brain matter and all that. And I was like, I don't remember seeing any Martians getting killed. I saw them zapping a bunch of humans, but I don't remember seeing any Martians getting shot. I guess
No,
one of them
he
must have done.
must have done. Yeah,
Yeah, we get Star Wars wiped back to the spaceship, and
yeah.
we see that Natalie has been decapitated. Her head's in a jar. Her dog's head's been decapitated, and her dog's head's been sewn onto her own body. I'm like, now, if you think what we were saying earlier on, this is a kids' film.
Yeah,
That's really fucked up.
it's still fucking weird as well. It's that kind of inventive. It's obviously Tim Burton, right? You can see
Yeah,
it, and he avoids some of his sort of stylistic tropes in this. So it's not quite, the Beetlejuices and the Edward Scissorhands, where
mm,
it's quite obviously him. Although I think they kind of get a little bit Lydia Deetz with Natalie Portman's character a couple of
yeah,
times. So
yeah,
it's got
yeah.
the black bed goes like you kind of hinting at it without ever going full Tim Burton and or full Winona Ryder. But it has that kind of inventiveness, that kind of ghoulishness to it, where
Mm.
it's like, okay, well, here's a decapitated head in a jar and a dog's head
Oh,
attached to a human body.
it's just horrible. And I'm like, why are they doing that anyway? Just their own amusement? Like,
Yeah, that.
just fucking horrible. We get a funeral honoring Billy Glenn for some reason. And Byron's kids are playing that alien game at home. And then Byron calls, I suppose this is what we're saying about the character arc. Byron calls Louise to say, look, he's going to fly home to Washington to be there. And then the kids sort of drop in that they're going to have a tour of the White House for their school. It's like, wonder if this is going to come back.
Yeah. They also seem to get from their home to the White House and back again quite quickly.
Yeah, so I presume they just live around the corner. I don't know.
Were they in New York? No, they weren't in New
No,
York.
no,
They're
no.
in Washington. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
New
New
York
York was
was
MJF and SJP.
nice, nice. Uh, Kessler gets a transmission from the Martians. They've issued a formal apology and they want to speak at Congress, and the president's all happy about this. And then we get to the White House the next day, and people again are gathered outside. I was like, why have you let people gather outside the White House, considering after what just happened? And then Lisa holding a sign. One says no applause, the other one says no
No job.
birds.
Yeah.
That really cracked me up. That was really funny. See the flying saucer lands outside the White House. And this time Kessler is at the president's meeting, but the president's not because Jerry says something about the Secret Service doesn't want the executive branch and the legislative branch in the same room. What? I mean, I don't really understand American politics, but it just sounds weird.
Okay, so do you want me to explain it?
Please, please.
The executive branch of American politics is the president. The legislative branch is Congress and the Senate, and the judiciary
Okay.
are the judges. And having them in the same room at the same time, I think, is a risk if they all get killed.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Cool. So the Martian ambassador arrives with troops to address Congress, and then I'm like, why have the Secret Service let me in with guns? Because the ambassador's got one hidden, obviously, but the troops who walk in are carrying guns. Why didn't they just say, no, you're not bringing those in there? So I found that distracting. And at first, it looks like he's going to pull a transcript out, and then predictably, he just pulls out a ray gun and starts killing
Yeah.
everyone. And then all the other troops start firing on everyone as well.
These are the bits. This is the bit where it's at first I was like, the guns can do what they need them to do in the moment when they need them to do it, right?
Yeah.
So previously it was like they shot one person, that person got like evaporated into a skeleton, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, depending on what the kind of shot they were going for
Mm.
is. And this one, it's the whole rows of people just
Yeah, yeah.
immediately turn into skeletons without any sort of effect. And then it's sometimes like it blows stuff up, sometimes it doesn't. It's all a bit like, whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes they're a handgun, and sometimes they're holding them like they're rifles type thing as
Mm,
well, which is a bit distracting. But during all this chaos, you keep getting people going, ah, just like flying across,
yeah.
and shit's on fire. And then Kessler's trying to restore peace, but one of the troops just like knocks him out with the gun. I'm like, and that's distracting as well. Like, why? Why do you keep kidnapping people? Why don't you just kill everyone? But yeah, and then we see that they've taken Kessler away, and he's been loaded onto the spaceship. Um, at this point, I think they've realised, shit, look, we need to get the president down to the bunker with the Secret Service. And then at this point, Decker's like, look, I want to use nukes on the president. And he's like, absolutely adamant, no, we're not doing it. That's where we get the shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up bit. And then Decker walks off really dejected. And then he realises he's forgotten his clipboard and he just comes back and gets it. Just little jokes like that kept popping me.
I think one
Oh,
thing is a really interesting use in this film of Pierce Brosnan, because this is kind of like peak Brosnan, right?
yeah,
Like he's Bond,
yeah.
and they make him the egghead scientist.
But he doesn't mind. He just seems to be having so much fun with it, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean they all look like they're having a great laugh.
Yeah, yeah. And at this point, the president wants to assure America that schools will still be open, garbage will still be collected, and there should be a cop on every corner. And there should have been after my last election. So fucking bizarre how he's just totally wants to just keep peace the whole time. And then this is the point where the president's giving a really shitty speech to everyone on TV. It's almost like he's just given up. And then we see Barbara's packing up and all her shit, and she's going to leave out. And then another disturbing bit, we skip back onto the spaceship and Kessler's been disembodied and his parts are all being studied. Now, I don't remember his parts being studied. I just remember his head.
Mm,
But if you look at the background, his legs hanging up, his arms, all his chest's been opened and shit like that. I'm like, oh, it's so disturbing.
yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yep. I didn't mind this bit, but the CGI for this. But then we see Natalie. She's now had her head put on Poppy the dog, and it just looks rubbish. It really,
Really,
really
I
looks.
didn't think it looked that bad.
Oh no, I thought it
I
looked
have seen
awful.
far worse stuff.
Yeah, we're not talking Lawnmower Man shit, but it was pretty bad. Considering this was like Industrial Magic or whoever it was who did Terminator 2, I thought it was really shoddy looking.
Okay, no, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I thought it looked fine,
Yeah.
personally.
All right.
I've seen far worse stuff that's been
Oh
made
yeah.
since that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Natalie asks Kessler if he was flirting on the TV show, and he said it was. And, like, ah. And then we basically don't see them again for a while. And then what was it? Yeah, this is the bit we get with a weird fucking woman. Like, and this all completely came back to me. So some 1950s pin-up woman arrives by the White House chewing gum, and of course, out of nowhere, a limo arrives, and Jerry's like, "Oh, can I give you a tour?" and all that sort of thing. And he starts giving her the same spiel that he gave the sex workers earlier on. Like, do you just let random women into the White House or somebody just walk by?
Oh yeah, I have a feeling he does.
Yeah,
That's Lisa Marie playing the Martian Woman's Tim Burton's wife of the time.
yeah. I got confused when I saw Lisa Marie on the credits. Like Lisa Marie Presley? I was like, no, no, it's just Lisa Marie, someone completely different.
Mm.
Yeah, and then she just lets them both in with complete ease. Up, yeah, it's fine. Come on in. I was like, no, that absolutely wouldn't happen whatsoever.
Not at the moment. Definitely not when there's
No.
Martians about.
Yep. Jerry kisses her hand, and we see that she's got a ring on her finger, which is transmitting footage to the alien spaceship. Oh, okay, she's a Martian. If you hadn't gathered that by now. And then Jerry uses a very Batman-esque statue to access what he calls the Kennedy room. I'm like, oh, horrible. And it's essentially a bachelor's boudoir, complete with a bed and a revolving bed and a bar. And he's been a real pervert at this. And I remember when we watched it at cinema, being like, this thing's making me uncomfortable, like really, really uncomfortable. Even I knew back then what Martin Short was doing was wrong. Then yeah, he forces a kiss on her, and then I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then I couldn't remember when we were kids why he put his finger in her mouth. I thought he was just doing it to be a pervert, but he said, "Oh no, let's get that chewing gum out your mouth," and that's when she bites his finger off. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes more sense." And then yeah, she bites his finger off and spits it into a tank, and we see that her face has been partially torn off, and there's an alien underneath it. Like, oh, if you haven't gathered that by now.
Yeah.
And then instead of zapping him, she just bludgeons him with a statue. I was like, "Fuck, man, this is dark."
Yeah.
But part of
Bites
me
his
think,
finger off, spits it in a fish tank, and beats him to death.
but part of me thought, out of anyone to get killed, he probably deserved it. He was a real shitbag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also she's got this really, if you watch on YouTube, she's got this really peculiar way of walking. She keeps sort of like swaying her arms as she's walking.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's kind of, it's very kind of eerie
yeah,
and very kind of like ethereal. It's weird, but it kind of really feels again like that 1950s sci-fi
yeah,
weirdness. It's really perfectly captures that.
definitely. She doesn't even speak, but she gives it like this haunting performance, the way she's sort of looking at him and nodding at him
Mm,
and shit. Yeah, it's very, very cool. Then what? Then she makes her way to the president's room, but the good boy wakes up and he gets zapped. Like, no, the good boy. I always get really
yeah,
upset when dogs get killed in films.
yeah, me too. I really hate when dogs get killed in films, but then it's always silly. Like it's completely opposite to Independence Day, which is out
Ugh,
obviously in the same year, where the dog escapes a wall of fire by jumping through a door.
ridiculous.
They'd have all died.
All of them have died. The president starts fighting with the Martian. Oh yeah, at that point, she's pulled off her helmet and then revealed that, it is actually a Martian underneath there. Yeah, he takes the president captive, and then I think it's Mitch manages to kill him because he gets distracted. The Martian gets distracted by another bird again in a cage, and then the Martians are all angry at their ship, the planet, like, "Ah, ah." What was a nice touch. Then we see, which is really cool. I don't remember this bit. The Martians were getting suited up. They're running,
Yeah,
and there's like a compressor machine that gets them into their suits and shit. And they're like, right, that's it. We've had enough. Like, there's going to be full scale invasion now.
I really like that sequence with the thing like clamping
Yeah,
onto them. Like
yeah,
it's I
brilliant.
think he used something very similar in his really shitty Charlie and the Chocolate Factory
Ugh.
adaptation with the Oompa Loompas at one point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hated that adaptation. It was
Oh, it's awful.
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 Some people defend it. They're like, "Oh, Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka is so good." It's like, no, it isn't. It really isn't. It's just a shit film. There's nothing wrong with the Gene Wilder one. Leave it alone.
No, leave it alone. That film's great.
Yeah, very, very good. And then one Martian's getting loaded into a big, massive robot, and I think that's probably a throwback to what you said about the Tops
Yeah.
guards. Yeah,
Yeah,
big,
yeah, yeah.
big old robot. Um, and then we get Natalie and Kessler are startled, and we won't see him again for like another 40 minutes. Like they're gone now from the film until
Yeah.
right at the end. And then we get more ships are arriving in Washington, and then they're doing a post-mortem on the weird alien woman, and then we reveal that the chewing gum she was eating was letting them breathe. I was like, oh yeah, that made sense because that was always a plot hole for me. Like, hang on, she wasn't wearing a space helmet like the rest of them, but the
Mm.
chewing gum is concentrated nitrogen or something. That's what's
Yeah,
making
yeah,
them
because
breathe.
yeah, I think they said earlier in the film they breathe, the sort of carbon-based life form
Yeah,
breathes nitrogen. Yeah.
there you go. Then what? Then oh yeah, see Martians are firing at that monument because they're trying to kill those kids on a school
Yeah,
trip.
that's great. I remember that bit so clearly. They're trying to running back and forth. They're just kind of knocking it, trying to get it to fall on them.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And at first I thought, is that Byron's kids? It's like, oh no, it's just another
Yeah,
bunch of
it's
kids
another
on a
bunch of
field trip.
kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
The-
the sequence with that, and then Mount Rushmore, and
yeah. Yeah, no, that's later on. That's later on. Then what happens? Yeah. Mitch arrives to escort the president and family to safety because there's a full-scale invasion because we keep saying all of the ships have landed. And they're running through the White House. And Marsh goes, can we go through there? And Mitch goes, no, you can't go through there. There's a tour going on. Good. I'm glad they paid that joke off from earlier because, like, why did he just tell Natalie Portman that? And then they pay it off there? It's very, very funny. Then what? And then what happens then? Oh yeah, yeah. Then for some reason, some poor woman giving a tour gets zapped. And then he drops his two guns because there's all sorts of chaos going on, and Byron's kids start grabbing him and start shooting up shit. I was like, why do films do this? Because kids are good at video games.
heroic kids tropes. Yeah,
Suddenly they be able to pick up a real gun or an alien gun and just start being able to fire it, no problem. Then we see that Taffy is separated from the president, and for some reason in my mind I thought, oh yeah, that's Natalie Portman gone for the movie. Like I don't know why I remembered her being at the start but not at the end or whatever, but she's gone for a large part of this now.
yeah. She I think reappears right in the last scene. Like
That's it, yeah.
that's her
Yeah.
done for the majority of the rest of this film. Now she's just out of it, and no one seems to notice or care.
No, no, that's the problem when you got too many characters, you forget about them. Oh, yeah, what about that person? What about that person? And then during all this chaos, the chandelier gets shot, and Glenn Close's acting is brilliant. She sort of looks like, oh, like that. And then when the chandelier hits her, it's quite obviously a dummy. It's fucking brilliant. Oh, that really made me laugh. I still feel she's underused in this. It's like she's the
She is.
first lady, but doesn't do much.
Again, like if you count like the lines of dialogue that people have, she probably only has about 10.
Yeah, about that. And then the kids say the Secret Service, "What are you guys gawking at? Get the president out of here!" Kids tropes. back to Las Vegas at the Galaxy Hotel, and Art's giving a sales pitch to investors, and then the Martians just start attacking the hotel, and it just kills Art, and that's the last we see. I'm like,
Yeah,
unceremoniously kill. I think that rolling globe that came
yeah, the
towards
rolling
him threw him
globe
out
kind
the
of
window.
yeah, because then you see it fall out the window and the hotel is collapsing. But it's like,
Yeah,
what's the point of any of that?
there was no point of Art's character,
But
none.
it's again it is bad. And they did say that they looked at those sort of Irwin Allen 70s disaster films as sort of a blueprint for
Yeah,
part of this film. And there's a lot of that in that, right? You've always got people in business deals and you've got people having romantic entanglements and then
yeah.
then disaster happens and they all die. But it's always very sort of melodrama. And it doesn't quite have that, this film.
Mm,
It doesn't quite have those levels of melodrama. It's got a little bit of it, but not a lot because it
yeah.
also wants to fit in all this weird and silly shit.
Yeah. But the weird and silly shit works. It totally
Mm,
works. It might have gone over in my head when I was a kid. I might have thought, oh, this film's a bit boring. But for me, when I was watching this time, I had a hoot watching it. It was so
mm.
good. Then we got to Tom Jones gig. This is the most random part of the film.
Yeah, I remember this when I was a kid, being like, "The fuck is Tom Jones doing in this?"
Oh, it's brilliant. And then Byron's back on the phone to Louise. He's cut off and he's joined by yeah, Barbara. She needs someone to fly a plane. He's like, "Where's your husband at?" He went, "Oh no, he's dead. I told him this would happen." Really good line. And then she says she wants to go to the Tahoe Caves where the Martians won't find them, but the plane is somewhere across Vegas, so they got to get to it. I was like, oh, so it's going to turn into one of those movies now. They got to get to a thing to get to the thing, darling. And then back at the Tom Jones gig, the lights go out, and the backing singers have been replaced by the Martians, and they're just dancing. He's like, oh, Jesus Christ! And he runs off, and the Martians just start fucking shit up. And then Tom Jones bumps in a bar. Byron and Barbara was like, there was a Martian right behind me. He can't have for shit, but it's so
No,
fucking funny, everything
he,
he says.
he got. This is where then Danny Vito turns up and says, "Oh, you're Tom Jones. It's not unusual." And it's like, oh, they only had the rights to that one song, didn't they?
Yeah,
Because he sings it twice, and somebody else references it, but none of his other songs.
exactly. Exactly. And then Byron punches a Martian and kills it. And I suppose at this point, Byron, Barbara, Danny DeVito, and Tom Jones are grouped together to get on the plane. Like, why have you included Danny DeVito in this? He's
But
nobody.
it's also the bit where someone's like, "Oh, Jones, can you fly a plane?" He goes, "Sure, you got one." It's like,
Why can he fly a
all right,
plane?
can he fly a plane? He certainly can't act. So I
Oh
don't know.
no, no. And then we see outside the aliens are destroying everything, but they've got that machine that Zygo's got. It's like, do not run, we are your friends. Slapping everyone. And then Donut World's being destroyed, but luckily Richie's escaped and he's heading towards the trailer park. And we see that his parents are loading up with guns to fight off the Martians. And then it's this random as well. Come back to the bunker, and the president's talking to the French president, Maurice.
It made me laugh so much. Hello, Maurice.
Yes, sir. Really. My wife was like, that wasn't the president at the time. I was like, yeah, and also Jack Nicholson wasn't the American president at the time. And then we hear that Maurice is getting killed by everyone in the room, and Jack Nicholson goes, "Oh mon Dieu."
Oh mon Dieu. That is so Maurice is played by Babette Schroeder, who's quite a well-known documentary and film director from France, who did some stuff with the
Brilliant.
New Wave and directed an a fly on the wall documentary about Idi Amin.
And now he's in
It's weird
this.
because I was listening to a podcast about Idi Amin earlier in the week and they mentioned it, and then when I was researching this, I was like, hold on, is that the same guy? I
Apparently so.
was like, yeah, apparently so.
There you go. We see that the army are fighting against the Martians as Tom Jones and gang are making their way through all the chaos. And then Richie's like, right, that's it. I'm going to get grandma. I was like, fuck my parents. And then at this point, Decker's like, look, I need to get your consent to use the nukes. And then, President agrees. And the nuclear missiles fired towards the mothership, I guess. And they just kind of absorb it in a balloon. And they just like inhale it as helium and start laughing. It's like, oh, you terrible shits. At this point, I always thought as a kid this was a spoof of Independence Day because we cut to London. London
Yeah,
starts getting fucked up. Like, oh no! And they blow up Big Ben in a way
yeah,
that like the White House gets blown up in Independence Day. And I always just assumed, oh, this film is a spoof of that, which is a common misconception. You'll
yeah.
probably cover it in your trivia as well.
No, I'm not
Okay,
quite
fine.
up in anything, but,
You-
but it couldn't be because they came out the same year.
yeah, I don't know. Or part of me thought, oh, maybe they shoehorned that shot in just to have a wink and a nod to Independence Day. I don't know.
Maybe they'd
Yeah,
seen like
yeah,
the trailer for Independence Day. I think the trailer for
yeah,
Independence Day had
exactly.
had the White House blowing up in it. I
Yeah, well, the
think.
front cover of the poster or whatever is the White House being blown up. So I don't know. Yeah. Then we see that Mount Rushmore's being made to look like the Martians, like you arseholes. And then the Martians are outside the Taj Mahal getting a photo as it's being destroyed. Easter Island's being destroyed, as you just said with the cameo. Then we get stock footage of all like disaster movies. But for some reason, the monsters are watching an old 1970s Godzilla movie in the Dukes of Hazzard. Oh dear. Now I forgot this was Christina Applegate next bitch. So she's quickly got over Billy Glenn dying. She's
Yeah,
just shagging some bloke in a trailer to stay alive. And
reminded
I'm
me a
like,
little bit of the end of They Live.
uh,
Because
well,
there's a
what?
bit at the end of They Live where people get revealed to be
Oh
aliens,
yeah,
and there's a couple
yeah.
having sex, and one of the girls says, "What's wrong, baby?"
That's how it ends. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then they're sort of panting and having like windscreen wipers uh clean their helmets, and and then not
You
what I meant,
dirty
but
bastard, you dirty little fucker.
not what I meant, but it's funny. And I don't remember them getting killed. I just remember them looking through the window as pervs, but then you hear them go dee like the ray gets them. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, they're dead. And then Richie leaves to get grandma. And then we see that the big robot has then got Richie's parents' trailer, just smashes it. Oh, now they're dead as well.
Yeah.
Quick succession, everyone just starts dying now. Excuse me. We get the robot cars chasing Richie. I'm pretty sure it would have caught up with him by now. And then Byron's leading to get to a plane. And then, no, sorry, they're going to get to the plane. And at this point, Danny DeVito's getting really fucked off of all this. He's like, right, that's it. I'm going back to the hotel. And then Byron goes, where are you going? I like him. I do. About funny shit. And this is probably the most only, I don't know, memorable moment Danny DeVito's got. He encounters a Martian and he's trying to surrender and cut a deal with him, and he just promptly kills him. But at this point, Barbara kills the Martian. He goes, oh, it's a pity I was too late. I was like, well, yeah, that's Danny
Also,
DeVito gone now.
Danny DeVito, he's the one where like the effect on him getting shot is just completely different to everybody else in the film.
Yeah, it takes a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, because he kind of like, gets electrocuted, and you see him as kind of skeleton, but with like Danny DeVito's face sort of like phasing in
Yeah.
and out. But it's the only time it kind of made me think like, did they just have a different effect? Did they not have enough to do it with the skeleton? Like, I'm not sure.
Or because he was super famous, they had to give him a ceremonious death or something like
Mm.
that. I don't know. Then what not? Yep. The robot's on Richie's tail, but then he gets caught in all the electrical wires outside Grandma's home. And then Richie makes it to Grandma's home, and there's just fucking chaos going in. There's like
It's like,
wheelchairs of people on
yeah,
fire
people on
going
fire.
by.
That's such a good image.
It was really good. Grandma's completely oblivious listening to music. Now, instead of the Martians just coming up and zapping it, they've wheeled in some massive gun and pointed at us. Like, why are you doing that? And then they unplug our headphones and it's Slim Whitman again. And it just makes their heads explode. It's brilliant. So by this time, the Martians have stormed the president's bunker. And then it goes back to what you were saying earlier on about the guns do what they want them to. Because then for some reason, they shrink Decker down. Like he's giving them a load of shit about, which is very Winston Churchill-esque. And they just shrink him down and just squish him.
Well, at least this is a slightly different effect.
Right.
They get the round rings, so you can
Ah,
almost like it's a
yeah.
different setting, perhaps. But you know,
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't just open fire and just spray everyone. But yeah, then typically chaos does go on and the president's making a final plea for peace. And he does the whole, can we just all get along? And where is that from, anyway?
this, I think.
No, I think that is a famous quote from somewhere, but I can't remember where. But anyway,
No, I lost
but
my
anyway,
mind.
yeah, Jack Nicholson goes on and on about how they could have strength in numbers and they could be united and blah blah blah. And then one of the Martians, like a tear comes out his eye and he shakes hands, but no, it's a ruse. That hand detaches and it crawls up behind Jack Nicholson's back, and just stabs him. Oh shit! Like
Straight through the heart.
completely dark, and then a little flag comes out, presumably of Mars. But yeah, so that's Jack Nicholson dead twice he died in this film.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wonder how many other people have died twice in a film. Probably
no,
loads.
well, yeah. Then we get Richie and Grandma driving along and they're broadcasting that terrible music that's making Martians' heads blow up. And they say, yeah, we're going.
Terrible.
You like Slim Whitman? I don't know.
I don't hate it.
All right, fair enough. They make we're gonna make our way to the radio station. Like, why is it in these movies there's always conveniently a radio station? Like, oh, we're just gonna go there and do this. Labs in a quiet place as well, like Quiet Place 2. Like, why is there a radio station that you can have easy
And a
access to?
radio station with a broadcast range of hundreds of
Exactly,
miles.
exactly. We see Tom Jones and gang have made their way to the airstrip and they find the plane.
Tom Jones struggling to run naturally.
Yeah, yeah. Richie
Bloody
try,
oil.
yeah. Richie's playing music all over the radio station, and this bit's fucking hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing at it. As Tom and Barbara in the plane, he's like, "Oh, do you reckon you can fly?" He goes, "Oh, I think so." And he puts
Oh,
on
I
the
think so.
radio, and he hears the music. Going, "Oh, put that on." I don't know why it cracked me up as much as it did.
Why would he put the radio
I
on?
don't know. That's what made it so
Right,
funny.
we're gonna have to escape the Martians really quietly, but I can't fly without music.
Oh, put that on. Oh, funny shit. And then Cindy and Byron are. Oh yeah, Cindy's one of the backing dancers, I guess, and she's been part of this group as well.
She's actually like has no dialogue. She's just sort
None.
of there.
Apart from this bit when her and Byron are opening the shuttered doors and they see there's loads and loads of Martians out there, and then Byron's a hero, goes, "Look, you just get back, I'll fend them off, and you can all get away." And then he just starts probably boxing them. I was like, "Hang on, why haven't they just raid him?" Because they sort of agree to, all right, a fair fight, and they put their guns down, and they're all like trying to box him, and he's just kicking the shit out of them. Um,
Yeah, it's weird, but like, 'cause he takes all the stuff off. He's like, just me,
yeah,
man, man, and he's wearing one of those sort of muscle shirts. It just makes you look fat.
yeah,
It
you're
makes
not
you look like you
muscular.
haven't got any muscles. You've just had to put like a rubber
Uh,
muscle shirt on.
yeah, you are not muscly at all. And then Tom Jones flies them all to safety. And then we see as they look over that, Byron's lying down, presumably
Yeah.
dead, all the Martians are surrounding him. Again, why didn't they just ray him? Why did they just beat the shit out of him and just leave him there? And then for some reason, Louise back in Washington senses that Byron is dead. All right. The army's playing the Slim Whitman music on loudspeakers in tanks, and like, Martians' heads are blowing up everywhere. And then we see the helicopters are playing it all over, including in India. And then all the spaceships start crashing as well, including the one that Natalie and Kessler are on. And then at this point, Natalie's head falls off the dog. And then her and Kessler, yeah, her and Kessler just share a kiss and then presumably just die because the ship just
Yeah.
crashes into some water. It's like, right,
But
that's them
would
dead.
they die? Like, they don't have lungs. How are they
Well,
drowning?
I assume because she was part of the dog that was keeping her alive, and when he was strung up to the wires, that was keeping him alive. That's how I saw it. So once they were
Okay.
full on the floor and they were just heads, it's like, oh no, they're gonna die now. Yeah,
Okay, maybe.
maybe. Um, and then we get to the desert at in Tahoe, and then Tom Jones and Barbara and Cindy have made it. They're all greeted by animals. They're all like deers coming up to them.
It's like Tom Jones, friend of the Diz, had a big old ring of the Simpsons about it. That did. It just made me like
Oh, I love
it
that
just
when
like
he's in The Simpsons.
Tom Jones just with like a deer, like, oh.
Sorry, mate, I don't do private parties. Or maybe look into this case. Pleasant dreams, Mr. Jones. That Simpsons with Tom Jones is so good. Um, then we get shots of all the Martians are being gathered up, and then outside the White House, Natalie Portman, Taffy, she's re-emerged.
She re-emerged after hiding.
Yeah, and she gives Richie and Grandma medals, and then there's this weird flirting bit with her and Richie.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
doesn't work.
was there like a subplot where they met before or something like that? They just cut it out or
On the
something.
Wikipedia entry, I think it says like Lucas Hartman's Richie, Taffy's love interest. I'm like, but what? In what cut of the film is he a love
Yeah,
interest? Just at the end, where he's like, "Have you got a girlfriend?" It's like, nah, you're out of his league, love.
totally. And then yeah, he gives some really weird shit speech about rebuilding houses for teepees instead and
I
whatever.
tell you, I tell you what made me laugh is the bit where she gives the medal to Grandma, and she goes, "Thank you, honey, but don't you dare let this happen again."
Yeah, that was funny. Um, and then we cut back to Louise's apartment. She's ordering the kids to clean the mess up, but we see she's not just talking about normal mess. It's because the entire apartment block has been ruined. And Byron's back! Yay! He walks back to the apartment. I don't know how he got back and how he wasn't dead, and he survived. And then the film just ends with Tom
Walked from
Jones
Las,
walks from Las
we walked from
Vegas.
Las Vegas to Washington.
Jesus. And then the film just ends with Tom Jones singing with like an eagle on his
It's just the look he gives, like, hmm.
arm.
Yeah.
And then cuts a credit, so it's not unusual. Like, oh my God, you can't make this shit up. It's amazing. All right, that was the film ad nauseum. Right, so what did we love it about them? When we were kids, we went and watched it in Gray's into the cinema. What did we love about it?
I mean, I just thought when I was a kid, like, it was funny, it was weird, it's very weird, it was bright, like it just felt like something different.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's
It kind of had this anarchic quality to it, which is almost just like a sketch show. It's like an episode of The Simpsons that you just
yeah,
made for like 2 hours,
yeah, like a
and like,
Halloween
but also,
special or something.
yeah, but like, yeah, exactly, but also familiar, like because it's like those disaster films. I would have seen Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, all that. I've seen all those on the TV, and some of them still hold up. Like, I think I probably had The Swarm with Michael Caine
Look,
on
bees.
Base, Thousands of Africa Killer Base. The bees are our friends. They're not though.
They're not.
Bee, kill
Yeah.
you soon as look at you. Now, so it kind of has that familiar ring to it as well, and it's just like, I mean, a hell of a cast in it as well, full of people that at that point were in
Yeah.
proper films.
Yeah, yeah. I love the fact it didn't take itself too seriously because when I was a kid, I found it a little bit boring. Like, it takes a while to get going, and then
Mm,
when it gets going, like, it's fucking great. But as an adult, I appreciated how long it took to get going because
yeah,
it sets everything up perfectly. There's so many jokes that get paid off later on. There's a few character arcs going on. There's some great jokes, but I think when I was a kid, I just loved the silliness of it. And I
yeah,
was convinced this is an Independence Day spoof. Because I liked Independence Day, so I like anything that makes fun of something that I like as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So now, what did we love or hate about it now?
I mean, look, it's it moves really quickly, right? I watched this late at night when I was already tired. Started watching it like 11:20 or something like that, and it didn't feel long. It didn't feel like a chore to get through. It moves really quickly. It's really inventive with some of its stuff, like all of those sequences with Martians getting a photo in front of the Taj Mahal, you know, redoing Mount Rushmore, knocking over the Easter Island heads. Like, that's all inventive and it's really fun and it's kind of visually interesting. I think, and you don't agree, but I think the special effects for the most part hold up really well. The design is quite iconic and it's trading on that I said earlier, like that 50s Americana, but
Mhm.
like updating it. So it's all kind of, I like that sense of something being slightly out of time and out of place, where it's obviously the 90s, but it's not the
Yeah,
90s
yeah.
because, everything's got a kind of ring of the 50s about it. Um, it's, the cast are all game. They all get the assignment. No one's sort of there for the paycheck. They're all having fun. But not in a way that's not. Because sometimes when a cast seems to be having fun, it's usually the film is terrible because
Oh,
they
like
clearly have
Ocean's
original
11.
vision.
It's just a bunch of
Yeah,
mates hanging out. I was like, oh, fuck this film.
I like Ocean's 11.
Oh, I don't.
Um, where it kind of suffers a little bit, right? If I'm saying like things, be looking at it critically, is it doesn't really have any big set pieces
That's true.
beyond the first bit where they land, and even that is not huge. It goes from little bit to little bit to little bit to little bit, which is fine. It doesn't need huge set pieces, and I think that's more of a modern movie phenomenon. But also where it's got so many different characters and so many little bits, and I can see what it's doing, right? Like, so for example, I used two films, and I said this earlier, but like The Tower Inferno is 2 hours 45, The Swarm is 2 hours 35, right? And those are similar where they've got all these different little characters doing bits.
Hmm.
In this, they've got that, but they've got it in a film that's an hour 43. And so it's really kind of condensed, and everybody gets like one or two lines or one or two little bits. It's not really enough sometimes.
Right.
And then some of the scenes they choose to include, like the bit with Annette Bening at the Alcoholics Anonymous, or with Art and the boxer talking in the car. It's like, why is this here? You don't have enough time for other characters, and you're giving this character this scene. Whereas, Natalie Portman's got what, like 10 lines the entire
Something
film.
like that. Yeah.
Um, and so it doesn't really give the characters enough to do. You kind of would have been benefited from, and also a lot of them don't have any real function in the plot. Like in those other films, you've got people who are like the owner of the building and the fire chief and the architect and the security guard, and they've all got a reason to be. Whereas
Sure.
some of are just like Cindy, she's in several scenes throughout the film. She's nothing.
Yeah. No need for it.
But that's like a minor quibble because I think it's that kind of film, and it's also, like I say, taking the piss out of those 50s American sci-fi films as well. So everything is arch, everything is big. It's kind of a wink and a nudge. And it knows what it's doing.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I do wonder if there was a longer cut of it where some of these people did have, bigger lines, bigger moments. Apparently, there's a ton of deleted scenes, but I didn't have time to get into what some of those are. But they sounded
I
weird.
mean, I've looked at stuff where, like in fit, where it's stuff that was in the early drafts of the script, but
Okay.
wasn't filmed probably. Like Dr. Ziegler has a death sequence. The person who was helping Glenn Close to pick out fabrics has a death sequence, and all of that stuff was in the original script. But I think there was a budget issue here.
That's true. You don't see Dr. Ziegler die. Presumably, he just died
No,
at the chaos that was going on earlier when the spaceship landed. But yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
true. You
assume
don't
so.
see him die. Yeah, yeah,
And there's a couple of characters that just sort of disappear,
yeah.
like that. Not any of the big ones. I think it's quite good actually at juggling quite a
Mm,
big cast. But like you think, Christina Applegate has two scenes
yeah.
and
It's
maybe
crazy.
a line of dialogue for the whole
Yeah,
film, and it's like, okay, there's got
wasteful.
to be a bigger cut. Now, whether or not there is, because I don't believe the DVD copy I have actually has any deleted scenes on it.
Yeah,
I don't think it does. And whether or not there is another version of it. But then Tim Burton as a filmmaker has always been quite succinct. Like a lot of his films are quite to the point. Like I saw Beetlejuice last week.
mm.
Hour 45.
Oh, perfect. Because
And do you
films are
know how
too long
bloody
these
yeah?
days.
Would you know how refreshing it is to sit in a cinema and watch films an hour 45 minutes long and knows exactly what it's doing, gets in, gets out.
Yep.
Like doesn't waste time, doesn't over egg anything. If anything, maybe you could have had another 5, 10 minutes on this and on that and on the original Beetlejuice. You could have expanded things a little bit more, but if you don't have the budget, you don't have the time, then why bother?
Yeah. Agreed. It's funny because whenever we cover movies, I'll have a list of like good and bad, and there's plenty of good I can say about this because it's great, it's funny, it's
Yeah.
entertaining, get all that. I couldn't put down a single thing that was bad. Nothing. Like this was
No,
genuinely from start to finish. I just enjoyed the hell out of this.
and the kind of stuff I've said there is like
It's nitpicking.
caveating. It's nitpicking. It's caveating through a different lens, right? Because if you understand what the film is, you know exactly what you're getting with it.
Yeah.
Like it's you don't need to expect like people say, well, what were the Martians up to? You don't need to know. Doesn't matter. They're having fun.
Yeah, like something like Independence Day, where that fails, it takes itself so goddamn seriously, and there's so much stupid logic, and I'm like, oh fuck this film. Whereas this film's just having fun, and it knows it's
I
having
mean,
fun.
if you think Independence Day is bad, try watching Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh, it's awful. Returgent,
Jesus,
so
good Lord.
bad. It's
That
so
is one of the
bad.
very few films that I've ever seen where in the cinema I legitimately just started having a chat. I was
Yeah,
like, I can't be fucked with this. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to openly start laughing at this film because it's that bad.
it was awful. Don't
And
ever do
again,
an
that's
Independence
like
Day 3, please.
2.5 hours long. That
Oh,
takes with the first Independence Day isn't 2.5 hours long. First Independence Day is fairly breezy.
yeah, about 2 hours, I think the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just under. It's like yeah, and it's fine.
Yeah. All right, cool. Swift trivia. What you got?
Swift trivia. Well, I'll just run through a few bits and bobs here. So, interestingly, I was know it's directed by Tim Burton, but it's written by a guy called Jonathan Gems, and I looked him up. He's a playwright first and foremost, who has no other film writing credits that I can see.
Interesting.
He's unproduced scripts for people, including um, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, which never got made, which is
Hmm.
originally going to be the sequel to Beetlejuice,
Yeah.
and a film called The Hawkline Monster, which is a horror western that was going to be produced at one point and never went into production, which I think would have had Clint Eastwood in it, which would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But he's got loads of unproduced stuff, nothing produced, but he made a lot of plays, like so. Very, very strange that he got involved with this. And a budget of 80 to 100 million, it had box office of 101 million, and that budget includes marketing, so it boasts about broke even,
Right.
but it's considered a bit of a flop. And I think this is where the budget thing comes in. So apparently, the original script, when they reviewed it, had a budget that they estimated at around $260 million,
Whoa.
and Warner Brothers said 60 million is all you're getting, which is slightly then less than they ended up spending, but still considerably less than what they'd have needed to bring the first thing that they wanted to do to screen. So they brought ILM in as well to create the Martians because the original plan was to do it all as stop motion, similar
Hmm.
to the way that he'd done the effects of Beetlejuice.
And the Nightmare Before Christmas and all that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Tim Burton um, loves stop motion stuff, but it was too expensive, so they couldn't do it. Weirdly, Tim Burton wasn't the original director. The original director was Alex Cox. So, have you ever seen Repo Man with Emilio Estevez?
No.
It's probably the most famous Alex Cox film. So that was he was a sort of an independent film director. He was originally who brought it to the studio to do it, but couldn't get it made. Um, said about the cow stuff they wanted to remove. Um, let's see. Sorry. Oh yeah, Lisa Marie, who played the alien, the Martian woman, had to be sewn into a costume because it was so tight. So they couldn't have any seams or anything on it, so they had to sew her into it, which also is how they kind of got the stooping walk effect.
Right.
Because it was so tight, so she could just like hunch over. Originally, Warner Brothers wanted the Martians to have subtitles so you could understand what they were saying, but after they went through the production. The filmmakers decided not to do that.
Makes
Um,
sense. That would have been stupid. It's funnier when you don't know why they're doing the things they're doing.
yeah, well, exactly. Hugh
Yeah.
Grant was the first choice for Kessler,
Mm,
by all accounts, which
that's
I
it.
see, but
Yeah.
I think Hugh Grant, I think Pierce Brosnan's perfect
Yeah.
in this film. They also considered Meryl Streep, Diane Keaton, and Stockard Channing for Glenn Close's role as the First Lady, but eventually went with Glenn Close. And again, I couldn't really see anybody else doing as good a job of it as
Yeah.
her. And that was all of the main trivia that I had.
Wow. Good stuff. Well, I think it's quite obvious, but the final verdict, does it hold up?
Mm. Yes, of course it does.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely it does.
I was watching it, and I say I remembered every single scene, and I didn't think I would. I think there'd be bits in there that I was like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that?" Nope, every bit. And I was like,
Yeah.
"This film is great."
Uh, I remembered about 60% of it, but there was about some of it was a genuine surprise. Like I said, I forgot actors were in it and stuff. But I had this horrible feeling this film isn't going to hold up. It's not going to be as funny as I remembered. It was better than I remembered it. I was like, this film's great. It really is really, really good. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Cool. All right. So I guess it's next episode's nomination, and it's my turn.
Ooh.
So what if I was to say to you, Smith, what's your favorite scary movie?
What's my favorite scary movie? Oh, probably Halloween, but I don't think that's why you're asking me that question.
No, I mean,
Are
what's
we gonna?
literally your favorite scary movie, as in the Wayans
Oh,
brothers comedies?
oh, 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 oh. Oh.
You thought I was going to say Scream, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought you were
No,
gonna do maybe. Well, we've had a good run.
we've had a good run of films that hold up, so it's maybe time to stuff that could be trashed.
Which scary movie are we doing?
The first one,
Oh, it's probably
it's
the best one.
probably the best one, yeah, of all of them.
But
But yeah,
that's not saying much.
oh, I know. So yeah, when we reconvene, which will be our Halloween episode. This episode will be dropping on the 31st of October, so
Oh,
spooky episode.
and we couldn't have done Halloween.
Well,
Or
now we know Halloween holds up. It's perfectly
all right,
good.
one of the
We need borderline trash, Smish. Borderline trash.
borderline.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we need to have a fun, discussion trash. Right. So, just a bit of housekeeping before we get out of there. Just want to plug our socials. So, you can reach us on email at it doesn't hold up podcast at gmail.com, or on Instagram at it doesn't hold up podcast, or on Twitter or X as it's now known at doesn't hold up pod. We're on YouTube at it doesn't hold up podcast, and we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other good places you listen to podcasts. And remember, do give us a good review on all your podcast platforms. And remember, we welcome all suggestions for things for us to cover. So, Smith, is there anything else you would like to say on Mars Attacks?
Yes. For dark is the swade that mows like a harvest.
Very articulate. And I would like to say, ack, 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 ack.